Everybody take 5 deep breaths with me. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Last one. Inhale, exhale. Alright, so now I want to talk about harassment. Alright, that is the next topic that we're going to talk about. This is really important. It happens in the workplace, and so we need to be aware that this happens. Alright, so I'm not going to bore you with the details of our sexual harassment policy. Like I said, we all can read, we should have all read. Alright, but I am going to talk about some important things that we need to do to encourage an environment that is harassment-free, especially sexual harassment-free. Alright? A lot of times, the problem that I have with sexual harassment training is it always tells you what you should not do, and this and that, and tells you this and tells that. So it always turns people into two pictures, a victim and a harasser. Right? It's all about reporting. I think the policies are clear enough on how you should report, when you should report. So what I want to do is how to create an environment that is, as much as possible, not doing that. Alright? So the first one is really all about civility. Okay? That's the first thing that I want to talk about. Be civil. Alright? If you hear someone say something, talk to them about it. If it made you uncomfortable, tell them. Alright, one of the things that happens when sexual harassment issues come is, for example, if I'm sexually harassing an employee and Art hears it, Art will be quiet about it. Right? He won't ask me why I said what I said. Alright? For example, when jokes come up and it offended, for example, Andres, he'll be quiet about it because everybody's laughing. And then the person giving the joke will have no idea that this is happening. So the first part to really help create a workplace that is free of harassment is civility. Don't be afraid to talk to each other about these things. We're going to highlight Andres here. Andres, for me, is one of the best examples of civility. Right? Andres, instead of complaining about jokes, he will confront people who are making the jokes. And he will tell them, hey, why did you say that? He won't go right away on that, offended me, whatever. Why did you say that? And depending on the answer you give him, he'll have a whole conversation with you why he thinks that should never be given. Or sometimes he'll say, you know what, that's kind of funny, I get it. Okay. And he'll drop it. Right? Because again, it's always best not to assume each other's intention. Be civil. Talk to someone about it. And then the other thing is, sometimes, believe it or not, there are people in this world that are just not aware. Like seriously, they'll make a comment because they might be from another generation, another culture, like myself, all right? They'll make comments from another culture environment. They'll make comments that they don't realize is offensive to somebody else. It's not their intention to offend you. It's just something that is common for them. It is important that we encourage civility in the workplace. Don't avoid those conversations. Confront people about it. Alright? If you see something happening, ask them why they said it. Part of civility is also this idea, one of the most dangerous things in this life now are jokes. If you want to look up statistics on where the most common problems and complaints come from when it comes to work, especially sexual harassment, comes from two places: comments and jokes. Alright? Jokes they're funny, they're a great icebreaker, but also highly risky. As a general rule, one of the best rules I've heard regarding jokes is, if you can't tell it in front of your grandma or pastor, don't say it. Right? Because if you're uncomfortable telling that joke to your grandma, unless you have that type of grandma that is more inappropriate than you are, right? But usually grandmas are the ones that, we know like, ooh, grandma doesn't like that, Don't say that. Usually if you feel uncomfortable about that joke to tell in front of someone like that, you probably should not say it in the workplace. Alright, and again, two biggest problems usually where harassment complaints come from. The first one are comments, the second one are jokes. The third one is email, believe it or not. I don't know why people are not smart enough to realize email is written like it doesn't disappear. But for some reason, emails are a huge pitfall when it comes to that. So civility is also part of that. We did a whole training on honor, right? On what you're saying, considering the value of what you're saying, whether that will make a person be valued. Again, consider your audience. Consider who you're talking to. If you're not sure how people will take it, the best rule is probably not to do it, or probably ask them. Again, if you are that close with that person enough, ask them and follow their direction on that. But again, in general, if you have to think twice about a joke, probably shouldn't do it. Alright, so that's part of civility. Alright, that helps create a workplace that really avoids a lot of the harassment issues. Here's the other thing. This is, again, our weakness and our strength. We're extremely close with each other. So sometimes people don't realize, and I've had this scenario before, where, for example, with me, I'm not easily offended. You can joke with me, you can do a lot of different things with me. My boundaries are pretty clear. The only things I said is, don't do it in front of kids, never ever do it in front of kids, and never ever do it in front of the community. Don't do it in front of when we have community members. That's it. Any other time in our setting, we're good. But see, not everyone is aware of your relationship with the person you're joking with. So always remember, again, the bystander principle. Alright? You don't know who else is listening. Alright? So as a general rule, when you're about to give a joke, even if you know that joke is okay to be said to your friend because you guys are friends, make sure you know for a fact that no one else is listening. A kid may interpret it differently. Alright? A bystander may interpret it differently. A parent passing by may hear you and interpret it differently and not realize that that's the kind of relation. They may not even realize that that's like in my case, that that's your wife. Right? And I just told my wife a joke that might be sexually provocative. Right? And a bystander passes by and says, oh my God, did you hear what that CEO said? Now you're in trouble. Alright, so again, part of that whole civility process, alright? Converse with people, talk to people, ask them why. The other thing that does is for the people with ill intention, it lets them know there's other people listening. Alright, because like I said, sometimes the reason why people feel they can harass someone is because they know that person is going to stay quiet about it. So if I know Rio's going to stay quiet about me harassing him, because, he doesn't want to lose his job, or whatever, right? I have some sort of dirt on him, right? And I know he's going to stay quiet. I'm going to keep harassing him, right? Let's say I'm an ill-intentioned person. But let's say Carlos confronts me about it and says, hey, why do you keep making fun of Rio being Asian? Now guess what that does to me? What does that do to me? It holds me accountable. All of a sudden I realize, oh, somebody else is listening. What else does it do to me?
Also, like, with the bystander thing, that, like, even if it's not offensive to Rio, I'm saying Japanese, something about, but there can be other Japanese people around, or some other one who is a Japanese family, that's not, like, funny. So even just having permission of, like, that specific person, because, like, oh, I know them and they're okay with it, sometimes still can be, like, dangerous.
Absolutely. So, but again, back to that example, why is it so important that when you see that you be willing to be that bystander to actually do something about it? Rima.
Usually the person might not have the confidence or the ability to step forward for whatever reason, but they want to.
Because exactly, the victim of that harassment may not have the confidence or feel that they have the power to do it, and that's why they're not saying something about it. But if they hear somebody else, if Carlos comes up to me in front of Rio and Rio realizes, oh, it is okay for me to tell Jensen to stop making fun of me for being Asian, then that also empowers the other person. Why else? What else does it do to me as the perpetrator of the harassment? What else does it do to me outside of it lets me know somebody else is watching? It also empowers the victim. What else does it do to me? It reminds me, not necessarily show me, because most harassers know it's inappropriate. I mean, I have yet to find a harasser who did not know what they did is inappropriate, right? But it reminds me, because sometimes it becomes normal to me. I'm just bullying Rio, that's just normal, right? And now somebody spoke up about it, it's like, oh, maybe I should stop, because if Carlos can see it, maybe my boss can see it. And if Carlos is upset about it, maybe my boss is upset about it, right? So, I encourage that vocalization. It goes beyond civility now. It goes with the power of bystanders, right? You, as the person witnessing it, has the power to change it, all right? Usually people who are getting harassed are scared anyway. If you've ever been harassed, if you've ever been harassed, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to speak up. Especially if the one harassing you is your boss. Right? It's hard to speak up. Because you're kind of like, well, am I putting too much thought into this? Am I making a big deal of something that's not a big deal? Right? I mean, those are thoughts that come to people's head. Am I gonna lose my job for this? Right?
And sometimes the person who's getting harassed, it's so borderline and smooth, almost. If you're the one being harassed, you don't realize that it's harassment, so when you speak up and question it as well, it's like, oh man, that did make me feel uncomfortable. I was being harassed, so that also saves the victim as well.
And remember that usually harassment is not a knowledge problem. It's a behavior problem. We have to call it as it is. People that harass people, it's not that they don't know. They have a behavior problem. And with kids, what do we say? When they have behavior issues, we name the behavior, right? It's always behavior. Again, I have yet to find someone harassing someone who did not know they were harassing someone, right? If it was intentional, they usually know. It's an issue of they have a behavior problem, they have some sort of lack of respect or whatever, or they don't understand their behavior, and you need to name that, just like kids, right? So don't forget the power of the bystander, all right? And as the bystander, now, what do you do when you do witness it? All right, let's say it's a little bit more than just jokes. Let's say it's like a straight up, and a little bit more than compliments. Let's say it's a straight up like you're watching someone kind of like touch someone and this person like, stop doing that. Let's say you witness that. What can you do as a bystander?
Well, there's always like a few different approaches. You can be like, hey, stop, or you can find ways to like, oh, hey, come here, like do it a little bit more smooth so that the person getting harassed doesn't feel like they need someone to save them, but also the harasser is just kind of pushed to the side for the moment, dealt with later.
Very good. You don't always want to confront the harasser, especially in the situation I gave, because again, that might actually escalate. Because now you're embarrassing the harasser, and now it's kind of like, oh, okay. So you don't want to put yourself in danger too. But that approach that Isa said the second, you can say, hey, so-and-so, I'm going for a coffee, you want to go with me? Going to the person being victimized and coming to them and letting them know, hey, come with me. Hey, I need you for this project. Hey, I need you to come to my office really quickly. Getting them out of the situation is another great way as a bystander to address it. What else can you do? as a bystander.
You can check in with the person who was harassed and say, hey, how are you doing? How can I, is there anything you want me to do, or how can I help you?
I saw that happen. Do you want me to come with you to report this?
Validate and ask for permission.
Validate. I saw what happened. Are you okay? Right? Validate and encourage to report. That second part is important. Encourage to report. You should always tell a person that you saw getting harassed to report it. There is nothing good ever comes out of not reporting harassment.
So, like, the thing we tell with the kids is, like, if there's something going on, like, I'll give you the weekend to tell your parents, and then on Monday, we can go together, we can have a meeting together. If you'd like, I can tell them, or you can go through with it, whatever the case is. So, with the person, if they're like, no, I don't want to do it, you can, okay, well, I'll give you a few days, and if it's you still don't feel like going, I'll go for you, and then asking permission to share their story is super important.
Yep.
Because a lot of times if they're embarrassed, or, they're the weak one in their eyes, I know, like myself, I'd be like, no, I don't need you to report for me, I'm fine.
Yeah, definitely. But again, empowering you as the person watching this happen will create a workplace that is less likely to have harassment. Because here's the reality. If we all know that we're all going to be accountable for each other, the likelihood of someone still doing it is really low. Because then that person, hopefully none of you ever have that ill intention, but if you are that person, well, now you know. Everybody here will speak up, right? And so that's why the power of bystanders is so important. Hans.
I was just going to say, yeah, it creates a culture. Like, people, one of the main things of calling it out or just saying it, that people are like, oh, I'm not. Because if people are more likely if they feel like in, or that they, like, if other people are laughing, especially, or like other people are getting amusement from it.
Absolutely. Remember that a lot of times too in a harassment, especially sexually harassment, the victim often feel like they need to be blamed for it. That's reality, right? People, well, maybe it's my fault. All right, and so understanding that that's not the culture of the organization is really, really important. And again, that power is not in the policy and procedures. That power is in all of us as the bystanders. All right? What other things can you do as a bystander to avoid or address sexual harassment in the workplace?
You can always talk to like you guys or your person if you don't feel comfortable talking directly to the person who is offending.
Or if you witnessed it, you can always talk to your director or supervisor, direct supervisor about it. Alright, I want to be very clear. We are not the kind of place where your direct supervisor or manager will say, oh, you're just exaggerating. We're not that type. Alright, now, we are also not the type that will immediately accuse people, but we will, again, we will treat it just as seriously for you as it is for the other person. Again, that's why I said I encourage civility. I will encourage people to call it out and talk about it. Right? Because to me, that's why I said it drives me insane that our culture is saying don't talk about politics, religion, or race. And to me, that doesn't solve anything. To me, talk about it. Please, so we can be in the open, so we know where people stand, so we know, so we can be open with each other. It's the same thing with this issue. It's not an issue of not talking about inappropriate jokes. Talk about it. Hey, that was inappropriate. Here's my reason why it was inappropriate. Why did you say that? Do you feel that was inappropriate? Right? Because then that creates knowledge among the team and everybody. All right? So again, the power of bystanders. All right? The other thing too. Next part. So I talked about civility, empowering you as the bystander. The other part is really encouraging reporting. Alright? If somebody comes up to you and says, I feel sexually harassed, your response should not just be, oh, I'm so sorry. What your response should be, you need to report that. Listen to them. I mean, it doesn't have to be that blunt. Alright? You can listen to them. and you can let them talk and whatever, and then at the end of it, you need to encourage them to report. Why is that?
If you don't, then continue doing the same thing to other people.
If one person doesn't report it, and if one person is getting harassed, the likelihood that another person is getting harassed by the same person is probably there. So that's important to remember. Alright? If you're hearing this person harassing somebody else, chances are that person, he or she has done it to somebody else, or is currently doing it to somebody else, or is gonna do it to somebody else. Alright, why else is it important to encourage reporting?
Kind of like that. You know, if you encourage them, and then something happens down the line where they see it, they'll be like, okay, I know how I feel. So kind of putting themselves in your shoes and how you report it, so it kind of motivates them to do the same for their other people and other peers.
Absolutely, it protects other people. It encourages people to protect each other. Why else is this so important to encourage reporting?
The other person might not know that they are doing it. They could be joking, it could be a culture thing, it could be a generation thing. And so to them, they're saying, you look beautiful in the morning, but they don't realize what is making the other person uncomfortable. So if somebody reports it, we could actually stop a sexual harassment case from exploding and being bigger than what it really is.
Because even though, like I said, there are people with ill intention, sometimes there are people that don't have ill intention. It's just something that they're doing, it's a cultural thing, it's innocent, whatever, right? If it's not being reported, then they're not aware of what's happening, right? So if you can't do civility, if you don't feel comfortable enough talking to them about it, right? If you don't feel comfortable enough to, actually talk to the person being victimized, then at least encourage the person, the victim, to talk to somebody and report it. Right? Because the last thing you really want, honestly, is to let things like this fester, and like my wife said, and then a little later on, now we have a full-blown sexual harassment case that could have been avoided. That could have been avoided with a 5-minute conversation. Like, in all sincerity, there are cases like that, where it's a full-blown sexual harassment, and really all it needed was a 5 to 10 minute conversation. Where people are told, hey, I don't feel comfortable, I don't know why you keep telling me that, and the other person says, oh, because that's just kind of, like, I do that to everybody, like, that's just kind of the way I am. Well, you probably should stop doing that to everybody. I'm so sorry, okay, right? So again, there is that idea of that. Sexual harassment is a big deal, right? It's a very big deal because it's not as uncommon as you think. You may feel like, especially for guys, we don't think about this too much because it's not that it's rare, but it's not as much of a problem in our culture for guys and sexual harassment than it is for girls. But for girls, it's a lot more common. I mean, I don't know how many teachers I've spoken to who literally tell me, oh yeah, especially teachers that work like in high schools, or and they literally say it, like especially young ones, oh yeah, I'm being harassed. Not even by their student, by their co-teachers, by their custodian, it's more common than you think. Harassment in workplaces is more common than you think. And so this is really, really important that we understand that. All right, because otherwise, again, we could create a culture where that's happening and no one's aware. All right. Other questions about sexual harassment?
Just don't forget that we do have an open door policy, and if you are being sexually harassed outside of the workplace, anywhere else, please know that if you do come to one of the directors, it will be held confidential as well, because we know there's very few people that you can trust with an issue like that. And now with this Me Too movement, lot of these people, men and women, were sexually harassed, and it took them years to get through it. And now that one person said, you know what, it happened to me, now everybody else is saying, you know what, I feel empowered because you said something. So, you know, I don't remember what we talked about. I think Issa brought it up, or no, you did. Well, what would you tell a student if you were the one going through it when that, you know, when they were doing that? So just know that too, that you have a home here. It is scary. It's troublesome. It's embarrassing. It's all your feelings all wrapped in one. But we have had people come to us as directors and tell us, hey, this is what's going on at home or elsewhere or 10 years ago. Know that this is a safe place for all of our staff and anybody else.
Other discussion points about sexual harassment? And yeah, it happens to everybody, guys and girls. So don't think this is an exclusive issue to women. Questions? Okay, so what are the 3 things we discussed about creating a harassment-free workplace? Or the 3 concepts we talked about? What's the first one? Civility. What does that mean?
Confront it.
Confront it. Talk about it openly. Alright? Talk to the people making the joke, talk to the people doing the action, talk to the victim. What's the second one? The power of the bystander. Alright, empower the bystander. And what?
I apparently missed that section.
Alright, what does empower the bystander mean?
It's the power of the bystander.
The power of the bystander, or empower the bystander. What does that mean?
If you see something, say something.
If you see something, say something. Absolutely, it's the simplest way to put it. Alright, and then what's the third one? Encourage to report. If you guys remember those 3 things, civility, empower the bystander, and encourage to report, alright, the likelihood of sexual harassment in this workplace will be low. Alright, because then again, we are held accountable to each other. Alright, we will make sure that what we're doing is good. Alright, questions about that?
Does this go for like other types of harassment besides sexual?
It goes for any type of harassment, yes.
That's what I'm making sure.
Yes. I just focus a lot on the sexual harassment because that's a very common one.
Yeah, he's right.
Other questions? Other questions? Now everyone's wondering why Rima asked that question.
I'm asking to clarify for the good of the group.
What do
I
you
am
mean?
not being harassed. Are you asking for a friend?
You're asking for a friend, not a friend? Alright, this is the last part, and if we do this right, we will be out of here early. Alright. Basic, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I have to do this. Basic professionalism rules.
Okay.
Basic. Alright? Here are just some things in case this is your first job, because I recognize some people, this is their first job, this is their first one. I'm going to tell you right now, I probably ruined you when it comes to what the typical workplace is with your relationship with your boss. I probably completely ruined it. Alright? As a general rule, never, ever make fun or correct your boss. Ever. In any other workplace, except here. As a general rule, don't ever do that. But here, I am just not that type of boss. I will joke with you. I am okay with it. As long as, again, you follow my 2 boundaries. Don't do it in front of kids. Don't do it in the community. Here, I don't care. And if I'm offended, I will tell you, hey, don't repeat that joke ever again. But I will tell you, I don't think anybody's really told me of a joke.
Andy.
No, not even Andy really has.
What about my Ryan Gosling joke?
I just tell you, don't repeat that loud. You can say it to me but don't ever say that out loud, right? But as a general rule, if you will ever work somewhere else, remember that. You do not.
We need examples of what.
No, let's not go there, right? Alright. As a general rule, I've ruined you when it comes to your relationship with your CEO. Do not ever correct your CEO. Do not ever joke with your CEO. And you always just say yes sir to your CEO in traditional companies. That's typical.
Why is it ma'am?
Huh?
Why is there too much general?
Oh, yes sir, ma'am. Sorry. My bad. Alright, so now, alright, here are basic. Alright, number 1, be on time. Alright, be punctual. Please, alright? Here's the reality, okay? I know, and I'm gonna be real, that here, in our meetings, in our environment, we're a little bit more leeway. But the reality of it is, in the community, alright, that is not acceptable. You can have fun, make fun, whatever you want to say, but the reality of it is, in the community, you need to be on time. At least on time. If you can be 5-10 minutes early, please do. I'm telling you right now, it is one of the worst things for me. I hate being early to meetings because no one is early to meetings. Ever. But I do it anyway. If you're not going to be on time, notify people. Alright? Again, there are situations where you can't avoid it. If I am late to a meeting, I notify the person I'm meeting with, or I tell people if I have other people in the meeting, because honestly, as the CEO, I have that luxury to tell somebody, you can start the meeting without me. Hi, Kenji boy. Alright? So please, basic rule of professionalism, be on time. Let me tell you how bad Tucson is when it comes to being on time. I've had meetings with teachers where they're 30 to 45 minutes late. Alright? Huh? It's the culture. The culture here. But for us, for higher ground, when you are meeting with someone, be on time. And if you're not on time, notify them. Let them know. Ask Rob. I tell Rob, do not make a meeting for me before 10. Because chances are I will not be on time if it's before 10. This is literally a rule that Rob has to follow. Because to me, I'm like, why set myself up for failure? Right? Don't set me up with a meeting before 10. That's just the way it is. I like to work out in the morning. I take my kid to school. I like to take my time. Don't do it. Alright? So be punctual. Be on time.
Old people saying, or us old people, if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah. That's why I said at least be on time. Alright? Second one, respond promptly. Alright? When people send you an email, that is not something that you let sit in your inbox for 10 years. Respond promptly. We have an email policy. Again, and Kenji, why should people respond promptly? Alright? We have an email policy for a reason. Alright? Again, back to basic professionalism. It is not my responsibility to make you read your email. It is not your manager's responsibility to make you read your email. It is your part of your work responsibility to read your email the moment you walk into work. Every day you should be reading your email. That is just the way of the world. You should be listening to your voicemail. If you're like me, have a cell phone. Doesn't matter. I receive, honestly, about at least anywhere between 50 to 75 respondable emails every day. I have to still read that. That doesn't give me an excuse. Alright, I receive voicemails. Alright, respond to your email within at least 2 business days. That is our practice here. That's our policy here. Your boss, and here's the reality. Your CEO shouldn't have to send an email. Please respond to my email. Alright, before you respond. Alright, that is like just basic, again, basic professionalism. Alright, that's just something that you need to remember.
And on that note too, something we're horrible with, and I love Daniela, she brought it to our attention, I think it was Andres, and two Daniela's. But when you go on vacation, in your email, please put that you are out on vacation and that it's an automatic response. That way, everybody knows that you will not be responding at that time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andres. I have
Alright.
done it, but if for some reason you didn't.
Next part. Another, like I said, basic. Basic. I wish I didn't have to do this, but this is something that we need. Please have professional appearance and good hygiene. Do not come into work smelling. Alright? I am serious when I say this. We've had to tell volunteers this. I don't care if you believe in the, there are people that believe in the no bath, no deodorant, kind of all natural thing. Professionally, that doesn't work. Alright? If you work at a workplace, you need to make sure you at least smell good enough that the kids are not coming to my office complaining about the way you smell. Alright? Again, this training did not just show up because, it's random. This training is out of necessity. Alright? So just again, as a reminder, please wear. Again, we don't have like a dress policy where you have to dress nice. You can wear shorts. I understand where we work. But make sure, again, I hate to put it this way, make sure your shorts actually fit you. Alright? And it sounds funny, but again, these are like things that I need to make sure. Make sure you're wearing a belt if your pants don't fit you. Right? Make sure those things. Again, basic professionalism. Be presentable and good hygiene. Huh?
No butt or booby crack. I mean, like that, not a lot of people know that, but.
Yeah, no,
because we work with kids.
your breasts should not be exposed. You work with kids, and your butt cheeks should not be exposed.
Your hand,
All right.
the end of your fingertip, it's in our policy and procedure. No, it's the finger. The longest finger, if you put it down on your side, your shorts cannot be shorter than that. That's professional.
Yeah.
That's too soft.
Yeah, that's too some professional, yes. We understand. And here's the reality. Here's the reality. Yeah, this Tucson professional is worse. I mean, I've found people in Tucson that go into work, and it's like, wow, I mean, you're like, but again, here's the reality. We work with kids, alright? We work with kids, and unfortunately, that's just the reality of work we work in. Alright, kids are brutal. Alright, kids, they're not always the best when it comes to that. Alright, if you smell, they will tell you straight up. Alright, and they will not listen to you because you smell. That's truth. Alright, I've had a jiu-jitsu coach where the kids hated this person coming in to coach because this coach stinks. Alright, and every time they come in, it's like, Mr. So-and-so smells. And it escalates my class. Alright, so please, again, just basic professional appearance and good hygiene. Don't have bad breath. Okay? Again, it's another thing. I wish I didn't have to say this, but there's a lot of communication going on. Sometimes this room gets muggy. And it's obvious that it's muggy not because of the outside. Right? It's muggy because our saliva, there's constant conversation. Right? There's constant breathing. Alright? Do me a favor and do everyone around you a favor. Have good breath. Right? Chew gum. Do what you need to do. Brush your teeth every morning and night. I mean, I know I shouldn't have to say this, but you'll be surprised why this training came up. Alright? So again, have good hygiene. Alright, please, for our sake.
Then also, like, smell good, take care of yourself. Don't come in smelling too good. Some of the kids have allergies.
Yes.
The Axe pop cans, they're not
Don't
single serving.
spray.
single serve, yeah, no, don't put the whole bottle on, please.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, Asia, if you don't mind me sharing, like our experience this summer.
Oh, yeah, so I was like, it was when we were doing one of the activities and I was hanging, yeah, for my section, so, you know, I was sitting at the table.
It was stinky in here, like,
Yeah, and like, I washed my hands to go to the bathroom, my hands get really dry out here. And, you know, I was sitting with Kenji and we were talking, and then my lotion is scented. And so she realized that I put that on while I was sitting right next to Kenji, and she asked me if I could
I
go sit
noticed.
somewhere else.
I noticed because I was like, that smells really good. Like, and in a room full of dissection and stinky kids, I was like, that smells good. Can you come sit at my table? Because, like, it stinks over here. But again, the kids are
Yeah.
allergic to some
You
stuff.
do have to be aware, again, the smells too, especially if you're like a coach, like a dance coach, a jiu-jitsu coach, a sports coach. You have to be aware that you have kids that are, so this may not apply like if you're a coordinator and you know you work with kids more in an office setting.
So yes.
Oh, it does apply too? Okay, fair enough. Alright. But remember that kids have allergies and there's some kids that are allergic to that. So you can put just enough, right, that you can smell it and people really, really close contact with you can smell it. But if 3, 4 people away from you can smell it, it's probably a little too much. Alright? Like if I can smell Daniela, then that's probably too much. Right? So again, just be cognizant.
Unless the room is stinky, like I said,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Alright? And under the professional appearance, we're pretty informal because we coach. I let people wear shorts, t-shirt. But remember, even in our policy, the print of your shirt must be appropriate. Alright? Don't be wearing shirts that do something that has to do with like, you know, gangs or scary symbols. You are going into a school. The best thing for you if you're working at a school site is to do plain shirts. Alright? Or shirts that have like a simple thing like what Carlos is wearing is fine. Right? It can't be misinterpreted in any other way. Right? But when you wear printed shirts in a school, right, the teachers there may have a problem with what you're wearing. So again, professional, alright? Don't wear, like I said, you know, basic professionalism. You know, go in the mirror, look at it, and if you're having to think twice about it, you should probably change. Alright, that's the way I always put it. If I go there and I'm like, I think I should change, you probably should. Alright, so this is just good principle. Another basic, alright, professional and work ethic, alright, is meet your deadlines. Alright? I want to talk very clearly about this. Alright? Meet your deadlines. It should not be up to your boss to communicate with you about your deadline. It should be up to you to communicate to your boss about your deadline. If you're not going to meet it, your boss should know. He or she shouldn't have to come to you and ask you. Again, basic professionalism. Alright? Make sure that you are meeting your deadlines. Alright? Deadlines don't exist for suggestions. Alright? Deadlines exist because they're needed at that time. So communicate. Let them know. If your boss tells you, I need your lessons plan in by Friday, make sure you have it in by Friday, and if you don't, let them know why. I need your reports by Friday. Is it like Friday, or can I give it to you Monday? No! Doesn't work that way, okay? Basic, again, just some basic professionalism there is making sure that that's happening.
And not your college test Friday, like 11:59 at night Friday.
Yeah.
That's cute, and that's maybe that'll last for a couple of years, but in reality, it's usually by the end of business or especially by not midnight.
Yeah, I used to not specify time, and I used to get people's work at 11:59. And I'm okay with that. If I'm the one giving the deadline, I don't put a time. I just put the day because I work till midnight, so I'm fine with it. Alright, so now, here's another very, very important thing. Alright? Professional and appropriate comments and conversations. Again, I said this before, I'm gonna say it again. If you're sorry. If you can't say your joke, right? A general rule that I found that I like, if you can't say your joke in front of your grandma or your pastor, you probably shouldn't say it. Alright, same, unless you have one of those kind of grandmas, right? But again, in general, okay? Professional comments and conversations. Alright, it's really important. Again, like I said, I've ruined a lot of you when it comes to talking to your CEO. Some of you can never ever work for another CEO, those of you that got really close to me. But in general, when you're talking to your boss, recognize, especially here, because we're friends and we hang out, recognize and have like cues when it's a professional conversation or not. So like for me, because I know it gets construed a lot because of the relationship I have, I will tell people, okay, this is an official meeting. And usually, like, even people like, and I'll pick on Isa, because Isa's usually like my very extreme example of someone who's totally not professional with me. Right? See, she just totally gave a perfect example right now. But if I tell Isa, and this is something that we've done, Isa, I need to talk to you about this matter. Isa knows at that point, okay, this is not Jansen right now, this is my CEO right now. The jokes will stop, and now it's a conversation about, okay, here's what I need done, here's what I need from you, and here's what that. Understand what level of appropriateness that conversation warrants. If you're in an official meeting with business partners, always assume absolute business professionalism. Now, if you are in a meeting with us, and you kind of that, let your direct supervisor set the tone of the meeting. If your direct supervisor says, it's informal, we're fine, great. But if your direct supervisor says, hey, this is a formal meeting, I need this, this, and this, then you behave according to that standard. Right? That's really, really important because like I said, I understand and I encourage a fun work environment, but a lot of you will have meetings in schools. A lot of you will have meetings with parents. A lot of you will have meetings in another space and in another setting. Follow that professional standard. Jokes, usually not a good place in a meeting. Alright, as funny as it may be to open a meeting with a joke, probably not a great idea. Probably not the best idea. Alright, so again, professional speak. Alright, the other part and the last part, be consistent. Alright, your mood does not belong in the workplace. Alright, your mood, your attitude, whatever attitude or mood you have, that does not belong here. Alright, the workplace is supposed to be a safe place. Alright, and this applies even for me, I despise when I used to work for somebody else, bosses, that you always gotta have a gauge, is it a good time to speak to that person or not? Alright, that's not acceptable. Alright, especially if you're a director or manager, and if you work with kids, it should always be a good time to talk. Always. Right? I think I can honestly say that even on my worst mood, I haven't had an employee scared to talk to me about an issue. Because again, I do not let my mood affect how I'm presenting myself. I'm consistent. What irks me all the time, and I'm vocal about it. And what I like all the time, and I'm vocal about it. So be consistent. Don't let your mood, if you're in a bad mood, de-escalate yourself before dealing with someone. That's really, really important. Again, be consistent. Your mood doesn't belong in the workplace. Alright, your mood, your attitude, and again, I'm just gonna say this wrongly. I don't care. That mood doesn't belong here. We are supposed to be a safe place for kids. The last thing you want is a kid wondering, well, I don't know if it's safe to talk to Miss Isa right now. She looks like she's in a bad mood. All right. Now, part of that consistency, you know, some of you may be smart enough to tell me, well, what if I'm consistently in a bad mood then? Is that acceptable? All right. No. All right. Absolutely not. All right. Be consistent. All right. Be consistent, and always be consistent in the way you portray yourself. All right. Be consistent about that. All right. And like I said, one of the things that always creates one of the worst kind of environment is a moody boss. I mean, think back to if you've worked before, you know, and you've had that moody boss. Think about how much you hated that experience. Right? Having a moody boss. So think of it from the same perspective. The teachers in your school, if you're a school coordinator, should always know what to expect when you walk in. Your principal should always know what to expect when you walk in. You know, even if you're stressed, you gotta just fake that you're not stressed. Whatever. But be consistent or have better coping mechanisms. Have support. Talk to your director. Tell your director, look, I'm stressed. I've had people come to me and like, I know my job requires that I'm in front of kids, but today XYZ happened. What can I do?
I see them one more time.
And I will tell them. And I've had staff where I'm like, you know what? Why don't you work in the office today, and I'll cover for you. Or I've told staff, you know what? For today, you're gonna have to go home. Or I've told staff, you have 5 minutes to punch me, cuss me out, do whatever the heck you need. And then after that, I need you to go back. But again, you have to find that support because you cannot be moody. And I'm not joking when I said I've told staff, you can punch me, cuss me, and do what you need to do in my office right now, close the door. Do what you need to do. That's not it. Some staff members here, you can talk to them. I've told them that. Right? So again, find that support, but you have to be consistent as professionals. So again, basic professionalism. Be on time. Alright? Be on time. Have professional appearance and good hygiene. Don't stink and don't look bad. Alright? And then, again, be appropriate with your conversations. Alright? Have professional conversations and know the setting of your conversations. Alright? And then finally, right, be consistent. If you remember those 4 things, for the most part, our place is pretty informed. Alright? And for the most part, I'm not the kind of boss that's like, here's X, Y, Z. I don't believe it. Questions? Everybody just wants to have a free go home.
I thought we were playing the game.
We are going to play a game, but it's going to be optional, so people that want to go home can go home. Alright?